Well, hello, welcome. My name is Brian with Reachlocal-io. Welcome to the series where we talk with travel pros in the industry about what worked, what broke, and what's changing as we head into 2026 and beyond. Today, I'm talking with May, who runs Secret Ireland Tours. Thanks for joining me.
Hi, Brian. It's good to be talking to you at last. How are you?
Awesome. Yes, doing great on this fine day. It's a little cold here. I'm based out of San Antonio, Texas, so cold for us is definitely not cold for the rest of the world.
No, yes, we're in Kentucky and we had about 4.5 inches of snow there, not yesterday, the day before. It's still there, it's still on the ground, but we're
Wow,
waiting for more snow tonight and it's cold. And I don't
perfect.
like the cold.
That's why I'm in Texas.
Yes, I can understand that one.
All right, to get us started real quick, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself? How did you first get into this, what you're doing here?
Well, I'll tell you, as you know, or as most of your listeners will know, at this stage, I don't have a Kentucky accent. I have from
Subtle.
Ireland. I'm from the northwest of Ireland, a place called Sligo. And I moved over here. It'll be 13 years in March. I moved over to marry somebody from here. But before I moved over, I was a professional singer, what's called a traditional singer in Ireland. I had 4 CDs on the market and I travelled and did gigs everywhere. So when I came over here and my husband plays the guitar, so I set up concerts and I was getting booked at festivals to teach traditional singing and to perform all over America. So it doesn't seem to have any link to travel at all, but I'm coming to that part.
No, no worries.
I would talk about the songs and I talk about the history of the song and the people that were in the song, because a lot of the traditional songs in Ireland were kind of like little pieces of history from
Mm-hmm.
different places that might not necessarily be written down in a history book, but they were captured in song. And
Awesome.
I would give the history of the song. And people started coming up to me saying, did you ever think about putting a group together and bringing them over to Ireland, showing them all these places you talk about? Now, when that's said to you once or twice, you kind of don't take any heed. But when it's said to you 30 times, you think, okay, God, obviously you're giving me some sort of a sign here. So what am I supposed to do? And one thing after another started appearing in my path. And Secret Ireland Tours was born out of that. That's how the
Awesome.
tour company came about, because I realized I'm a local. I have a lot of local places that would not be on big brochures where people
Hmm.
wouldn't even know that it exists. Um, I can talk about the history and all aspects of places at home. The fact that I travelled musically, I had a lot of contacts around Ireland, and I was just thinking about Ireland at the time. I wasn't thinking about going anywhere else, but we're spreading our wings now a little bit. So that's how the tour company came about.
What a
There's your
story.
story.
Yeah, kind of a unlikely scenario, but it worked out, huh?
Well, yeah, it did. Now, we ended up having COVID, and that kind of took the rug from underneath us for a while. And then I was just picking up and beginning to start again after COVID. And then I got cancer. And that kind of knocked me out for 2 years as well. But we're back again and we're building it up again and things are going okay.
Well, that's great. I'm lovely and happy that you're able to be here with us. Um, so help me understand a little bit. What is it that you're doing exactly? Are you just doing the planning side of things and organizing the event, or are you taking people on these tours?
My last tour was in September. I developed this program called an ambassador program. And it's aimed at if you have a fan base or a following, or you could be a cook, you could be a knitter, you could be a lot of the people that I have now as ambassadors are paranormal people, and a lot of them are TV personalities. The last tour I went on was with a guy by the name of Chris Fleming. He worked on Help My House is Haunted, and he did a series in Ireland, Spooky Ireland and Spooky UK. And the tour was centered around all the places that he had featured on his TV series. So that was the last tour that I did. I used to do all the planning, all the booking, create the itinerary, and then I would do the tour guide work as well. So in September, I decided I won't do the tour guide work anymore. I have some very good tour guides at home that will do it for me. I just found it a little bit rough the last time I did it. So I've decided to pull back on that one and just do all the organization and all the booking, and then let my tour guides over in Ireland, Scotland, Wales. I even have a tour going to Romania next year. And yeah, I'll have my tour guides take it over when they get over across the pond, and I just do all the organizational work here. So yeah, it's not, it's a job. It's not easy, but it's enjoyable. And when you see that people are enjoying themselves, you get a great sense of satisfaction when you know that they're having a great time.
Yeah, that sounds like a big decision that you had to make there to
It was
have
because
the good knowledge.
yeah, I loved doing the tour guide work because you'd watch people, like, most of the time our tours were in Ireland up until this coming year. They were all in Ireland, and I would have, it's funny because you'll have people coming in to the airport on the first day, and they're kind of nervous and they're kind of shy. It's not much talk out of them at all, and then they start getting to know each other. And as the days pass, you can see friendships developing, and you can see them more talkative, and you hear them laughing on the bus, and you see them beginning to develop these friendships. And then by the time the end of the tour comes, they're hugging each other and they're crying. And, you know, the best thing is, though, when you come back and you're looking at Facebook posts and you're watching them still in contact with each other and making plans to meet up, you think, yes, that's exactly what I want to
Bonded
happen.
bonded by
Yes,
the experience.
yes. And they make it's a great way of making friendships, to go on one of these tours. Even on your own, there's a lot of single travelers that go on their own on these tours, and they end up making a lot of friendships. It really is special when you stand there and you think, I had something to do with that, you know,
That's awesome.
and you stand there. Sometimes I'll bring them to some place like a place called Slieve League. It's in Donegal, and it is one of the highest facing in Europe, and the scenery is stunning. Even on the way up, the scenery is just breathtaking. But when you see somebody stand and look at some scenery, and literally you can see their breath being taken away, you think, yes, I've done it, I've done it, I've done it. Their breath has been taken away from the beauty of what they're watching. And you get a great sense of satisfaction there. But yeah, I decided in September, I can't do it. I can't do, because it takes a lot out of it. It's tough enough tour guide work because you're the first up in the morning, you're the last in bed at night. You're going constantly. Even though you don't realize it and you're enjoying it, but you are actually under stress. Like, you're in the bus, and if there's traffic in front of you, you're kind of thinking, get out of the way, get out of the way. We've got to be somewhere at 2 o'clock. Get out of the bloody way. And it's kind of, you don't realize it until you realize that, no, this is not good for me. I'm not supposed to be doing this stressful stuff anymore. But anyway, that.
Well, that's wonderful that you have that flexibility also. So
Yes.
thanks a little bit for that backstory there. So overall, if you're not aware, we are looking into the marketing and tech side of the industry overall and kind of getting some insights. So for you, it sounds like that work scope has expanded for you where you're managing clients and employees or travel slash tour guides and the itineraries. How are you keeping track of all of that?
having a laptop and writing everything down on paper as well, actually. I'm one of these old school people. I'm not very tech minded at all. You just have to make sure that you have everything covered. I do all of the work here on my own, and I create the itinerary, and everything is in Excel. I'm old fashioned. Everything is in Excel, and I write everything in Excel. I have the itinerary, I have the names of all my clients, and I have all the bookings, what I've booked, what I have not booked, different prices. Everything is in Excel. And I have, you just go one tab to another. One tour is in one sheet and another tour is in another sheet. And that's how I do it. I use a platform called We Travel. Have you ever heard of it?
I've not heard of this one.
I have my own website, secretirelandtoursllc.com. But
Okay.
it's a payment platform. You can build your whole itinerary on it so that people can see it. Um, we travel, there's a payment platform on it, and you can do a lot on that. People can use that platform to book their tour, and I can do an installment plan on that platform. So, and then you can download it into QuickBooks. So it's a very good tool to have. And it's just a matter of adding the link to your webpage or website, or sending out the link with your sign up sheet, you know.
Sure. Okay. Yeah, I was just taking a peek here real quick.
Yeah, we travel. It's a good one.
Awesome. And so that sounds like so far your main tools are going to be Retravel for the itinerary building, pricing out, and payment collection.
Yes.
Are those the main things you use that for?
Yes, all of the information about the tour is there. Everything that anyone wants to know would be there. And then they
Okay.
can do the payment, and I can set up installment plans for them if they want in We Travel. And they'd have the once let's say you're coming on a tour with me, you click the link that I'd give you, and it'll bring you into We Travel, and you set up your own account. And then you can go into that account at any stage, or you can set up, if you wanted to do an automatic, payment plan, you can do that. It's
Okay.
very handy. It's very handy, and people can check the itinerary there and all the information, and they can see the terms and conditions, and the whole lot is in there.
And so does it also reach out to those clients and saying, hey, we're 3 months out, that maybe these are the steps that you need to do? And
Well, no, I do that. I send a lot of emails to the clients, but I can send it as a group email inside of We Travel. So, but I do send, like I let them know. The first thing I'll always do is please check your passport to see that it's up to date. Because it's amazing how many people don't ever look at their passports until they need to. And some of them might realize, oh gosh, my passport is out of date, or it'll very soon be out of date. So that would be the first email I'd send. And then I give them tips about how to pack their clothes, how to, and then what they should consider packing, and what the weather would possibly be like, medications, your phone provider, have you any allergies? I send all these emails out, but I would have to write one email, but I send it to the group inside of We Travel. And then We Travel will send a reminder. Let's say if you're doing an installment plan, they will send an automatic reminder a week beforehand. If you haven't paid whatever you're supposed to pay, they will remind you again 3 days later automatically. Or if it's just the balance, they send out an automatic email, a reminder email. And I don't have to worry about that. They do it automatically.
awesome. Okay. So we travel and spreadsheets. And those are your only tools that you're really leveraging?
My finger, by a pen and a notebook as well. I have to write everything down. I don't know what it is, but everything I do on Excel, I have it on a note, a pad as well.
I know exactly how you feel. Yeah, no problem there. So the year of 2025, what was some of the big things that worked out for you?
Well, all of the tours were I only had something like 7 tours, which was good considering that I had been down for 2 years before that. And to have that many, I was quite happy about it, you know. I had I had 3 different tour guides, and they really worked out very well. I do private tours, and then I do that ambassador thing. I had a few people reach out asking me if I would help them with itineraries, because we do that as well. Or I take all the work out of it for them and I will book everything for them. And all they have to do is land in Dublin, get their hired car, and off they go, and everything is done for them. But I think the fact that I was able to stand back and delegate work to the tour guides comfortably, personally for me, that was the highlight, because I didn't know if I'd be able to do that.
To
Considering
take
that
a
I
step back.
always, yeah, to take a step back. And I have some great tour guides, and I can go forward now knowing that I can depend on them and that they're really good, and they love their job as much as I loved doing it as well. I had some private tours, and they were really happy with their tours. And that ambassador program is really kicking off now. I mean, I'm not looking for ambassadors, they're looking for me, which is a good thing.
Yeah, great position to be in for sure.
It is, it's a good thing, yeah. It is, it's a good position to be in. Because, you know, most of them are in the paranormal world. I mean,
Yeah,
I would be quite happy
that's
to
crazy.
take from anywhere. I don't mind if there was ambassadors from the podcast world that have a big following. You know, we would do it, and we'd set up tour to suit the theme that they want to use. But it happens to be a lot of them are from the paranormal world, and they're very well known people, you know, in that world. Most of the tours were in Ireland. And as I was telling you, those people that have come with me to Ireland now want to come with me different places. For instance, we have one in Scotland next year. Ryan O'Neill is the ambassador for that, and he was with Chris Fleming on this Help My House is Haunted or Spooked UK. I'm not quite sure which one, but he was one of the presenters. He's from Scotland, so he has a big following over in Europe and in America. And we're going to be bringing people around Scotland. And then Chris wanted to do England because he was on Help My House is Haunted, and we're taking in a lot of the places that he featured on that TV program as well. And then I have a guy by the name of Dave Schrader. He's very well known. He's got some podcasts and he's been on TV and quite well known. And we have one with him in Wales. I did one with him in Ireland. Michelle Roos is another girl who came to Ireland with us, and she wants to go to Romania next year. We're doing Romania. There's a girl from Canada. She's very well known. Corinne Carey is her name. And she is on a TV program up there. The name escapes me now. I can't remember. But it's people like that. And they bring their fans and their followers along with them. So that's a great way of me I don't have to do the advertising. They reach out
Yeah,
to their.
that
Now,
was actually
like,
going to be my.
I've got private tours as well, you know, people that have come with me, and then an offshoot of that tour would set up a tour of their own, and they've come with me, and they're going to come again in 2 years' time. They want to do some other part. You know, we bring them to sections of Ireland. People say, I went to, you know, I'd have met people who would say, where are you from? And, oh my gosh, I was in Ireland. And I'd say, where did you go? We went all over. We were on tour and we went all over Ireland. And I thought, ah, you didn't see much if you went all over Ireland, because you know what I mean? You're on a bus. I remember before I ever left Ireland, I live in a very small rural village in Sligo called Gurchin. And 10 miles away from us, there's a town called Boyle. And in that town, there's a 12th century Cistercian abbey, the ruins of it. Magnificent. It would have been magnificent in its day. So I would watch these busloads of people. The bus would stop, 50 people would get out of the bus, they'd take photographs and they'd get in on the bus again. And I used to think to myself, well, how stupid is that? They don't even know what they're looking at. They're not getting any history. They're not getting any myths or legends or any information from the locals. They're just taking a photograph. And in 10 years' time, when they look at that photograph, they'll know it was somewhere in Ireland, but they won't have any clue of what it was. And I used to feel kind of sorry. I used to think that's an awful waste of money. And then you'd meet people who'd say, oh, yeah, we were on tour. And I'd start asking them questions. And you did all of Ireland. What was your favourite place? They wouldn't be able to tell me. And then they'd say that they had to be on a bus at 7 o'clock in the morning and they wouldn't get off that bus until 7 or 8 o'clock in the evening. And they'd be on the go all day long. And it dawned on me that that was a kind of a waste of money to be sitting on a bus, which meant that either they were travelling all the time or they weren't spending a lot of time in venues. Now, maximum amount of venues that we would do in a day would be 3. And you'd stay an hour to an hour and a half. And you'd get the full history of the place and you'd get a tour of the place by a local and you'd hear all the local stories. And we'd make sure that people are not on the bus for any longer than an hour and a half. You know, you'd have to get out. People have to stretch. And we do only 8, maximum 9 hours a day. The day is, you know, only 8 hours a day because people don't want to come back to a hotel at 7 or 8 o'clock at night, too exhausted to even eat an evening meal. They want to be able to come back, relax, have a nice, relaxed meal, and be able to enjoy having a chat about the day and not being too tired to do that. You know, so it's also a vacation. It's not just, I have to see everything in Ireland because you don't get to experience anything when you have to see everything. You know what I'm saying? So we would take people different places. Let's say if we went to the south, we'd kind of do the south, but we wouldn't be doing the south, the west, the north, the whole lot. You'd be picking a section of the country and really seeing what it has to offer and experiencing it and getting the sense of it and the feel of it. And then, you know, we'd have a different section if people wanted to come over. For instance, I have for 2027, I call it my Manor Home Castle series. I
Oh, cool.
have 2 manor homes. One is in Sligo, one is in Dublin. And then I have a castle in Cork. And I'm basing it on 10 couples. And they have the absolute run of the building themselves. We just cater in breakfasts and it's not a hotel. It is, the manor home is theirs for the duration of the holiday. And then we bring them out every day on excursions. But they get to stay in these, I mean, there's some of them, they're beautiful. The castle is fantastic. It's Blackwater Castle in Cork. And we've stayed in it I've brought groups to it a few times. And you have the whole run of the castle. You've got the kitchen, you've got the laundry, you've got the all the lounges, and you've got the grounds, and it's stunning. And Orla House is in Dublin, and then Temple House is in Sligo. So we have those vacations up and ready to be sold if people want to do it. They're the lords and the ladies of the manor for the duration of the tour. Or
Very
the king
unique
or queen of the
experience.
castle if they want.
Yeah, that sounds very unique and very cool. That sounds
Yes, it
fun.
is. It is, yeah, because let's say Temple House, it has its own lake and there's a few boats there that people can take and go out if they wanted. And the great thing about it is, Brian, there's people that love to travel every day, but if you don't want to go out any particular day exploring on the bus, you can just take it easy in the house and enjoy the grounds of the estate. And
Yes.
yeah, it's great because you unpack maybe once and then you pack. And then usually the night before people go back, I like to book them into Fitzpatrick's Castle Hotel, South Dublin. It's in a place called Killiney. Bono's house is just down the road, and Van Morrison's house is just down the road, and Enya's castle isn't too far away. So, people can go hunting for these places. But the castle itself is beautiful and the staff are fantastic. It's a great hotel, Fitzpatrick's Castle in Killiney. So, yeah, That's, things like that. We do things like that.
Yeah, that's very, very much being able to live in that history instead of just looking at it, be immersed.
Yeah. And a lot of these houses and the castle, they haven't changed over the years, if you know what I mean. It's more or
Mhm.
less decorated the way it would have been. But they're beautiful. Temple House is stunning, and the grounds of it is stunning. And there's the ruins of a castle, actually, a 13th century castle on that estate. So it's beautiful, and it's, for just to have 10 couples just staying in it, and you don't have anybody else. It's yours for the duration of the holiday, and you can come and go as you please, and it's lovely.
Yeah, that sounds like a great time.
Yeah.
Awesome. So you mentioned that you were out for about 2 years with some unfortunate health issues, but you came back and it sounds like you've had some great success. Are you doing any kind of marketing or is it just happenstance that people reach out to you?
Do you know something? It's beginning to be more word of mouth now, and people are contacting me because people have told them about me. I use Facebook, I use Instagram, I use X. But to be honest, most of what I'm getting is word of mouth, which is a good thing. And I get a lot of repeat customers, which is a great thing. Yeah. It's a great thing. And we're not like the average tour group where you've got your tour guide talking all day long on a bus and everything is so, monotone, and they're just repeating everything, and it's like it's in the head, and they've learned what to say, and you know I
They're
talk
repeating
I
it without any enthusiasm.
yeah, exactly. I remember, actually, it's funny because a few times when I would be at the airport waiting for some of my clients to come in, there was this one guy, God love him, I used to feel sorry for him. I think he was Italian, and he was doing the tour guide work in Ireland. And the poor guy looked stressed out of his mind all the time. And I would meet him at different venues, and I could understand it because he's not in his own country, and he just looked stressed. And I've met him on a few times that I've been in Ireland. And I remember thinking, God, you're still doing a fair play to you, because I didn't think he would last long, but he did. But he looked stressed all the time. And he was only young, and I can understand him being stressed all the time. But I felt sorry for him. But they'd have to learn, before we go to a venue, for instance, when we're about 20 minutes out, I'll say to my bus driver, tell me when we're about 10, 15, 20 minutes out. And I will just read the information that I have, but I'd also tell them of personal experiences I
Mhm.
had when I visited there, and people had asked me questions, and then I would say, well, I'm only giving you the outline, but the tour guide that's there is going to give you the full history of the place, and it's valuable what they're going to tell you. But to get an idea of what they're going to visit before I give them an outline and an idea of, let's say we go to a place like Belvedere House, which is a 13th century house, and it has a great history. This guy, Rochford, not a nice guy. He ended up marrying a young woman, and she had 4 children for him, and he got bored with her, and he used to leave, go off to London, and he'd go to Dublin, and he'd leave her there in the middle of the country on her own. But she became friends with his younger brother's wife. So he had another brother who created a rumor that this man's wife was having an affair with his youngest brother. He comes back from London, and he locks her in a room, and he locked her there for 30 years in this house. So, you tell these stories to people, and they're fascinated by it. And then they get more detail from the guide that's employed in the
Mhm.
house. So, yeah. And now there's a little bit of an interest built up before they ever get to the house at all,
Oh, yeah.
you know? So
That's
that kind
awesome.
of a thing. Yeah. And you don't have to spend all day long talking, because people want to do their own talking. We play games on the bus. We sing on the bus. We tell jokes on the bus. I get them involved. Come on, up to the microphone, and we shorten the road. We have an old saying at home, we shorten the road for you. We'll tell a
Oh, yeah,
story and
yeah.
we'll shorten the road, yeah. So, and then I'll sing a couple of songs for them. If we go through some town and I have a song about it, I'll sing it on the bus, or I'll teach them a few drinking songs on the bus that night. And then again, all my musician friends, I organise. If we're in the Northwest, I organise my musician friends to come out and play music for them. And I get them up dancing. That's good fun.
Wow, yeah, fully immersive. This is a full experience. You're making me want to go now.
Good. Get you up singing, Brian.
I'll be practicing. All right. So you're doing, like you mentioned, all this work by yourself. You have your people overseas, of course, but all of the back end office work is on your shoulders. If you could hire a task out tomorrow, what would take some of that off your plate? What would that look like? What's the heaviest burden that you have?
To know that it's done right. Like my worry would be, like I book all the hotels. In Ireland, I have hotels that I use all the time in all parts of Ireland. So I know them and I've worked with them for years. But let's say other places like England, Scotland, Wales that I'm not familiar with, you have to do a lot of research into the hotels and you have to look at reviews and I even go on Google Earth to look at the street where the hotel is,
Hmm.
you know,
Just to make sure.
having just to make sure. Because you just don't know. I remember one time I was going over to London and somebody had given me the name of a hotel and it sounded great and it sounded okay. And it was probably okay, but I personally wouldn't put a group into it. Let's put it that way. It was okay for me, but I wouldn't put a group into it. I remember standing outside it and I'm looking up and I'm thinking, oh my God. So that that experience, I'm glad I had that experience now because now I'll go on Google Earth and I look at the hotel so that I know whether, if it's acceptable to me, well, it's probably, and once the reviews are good, you know, it's okay. But you do a lot of research and I would be afraid that they'd pick hotels that wouldn't be up to standard. I mean, I do my very best to offer a tour that's not outrageously expensive. I do my very best to offer a very affordable tour. And that means you have to do a lot of work to make sure that if you're getting a hotel that's a good price, that it's also a good hotel, if you know what I
So
mean. So
yeah, so
my
going
worry would be that, yeah, my worry would be if I had somebody doing it with me here, my worry would be that the place that people are staying in would have to be good.
sure. So, but even then, hypothetically, if you found that perfect person, is it planning those places out, finding the places? Is it some office work? Is it organizing all the client information to send out the texts or the emails? What's the heaviest time
What would I
consumption?
use? What would I use them for? Is it? I think I would
It
probably.
it could be a person, it could be software, whatever. Just like if you had a magic wand to wave around and fix one thing.
What would be the most important? I suppose it's the pricing of the hotels and the bus and the venues. It would be the pricing of all that I'd want somebody to help me with.
Negotiating those.
Yes, negotiating them. Exactly. Yeah, that's what I would want somebody to help me with. I mean, putting an itinerary together is easy enough. It's the booking of all these places that's not, and getting a good price for them and being able to negotiate that and to know that the places are good. Yeah, that would be what I'd need somebody to do or something to do. I'd rather have somebody do it than some sort of software doing it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Absolutely. That's definitely needs a personal touch.
Yeah, it does. It does need
Some
the person.
finesse.
And you have to build up a working relationship with places as well. So if you can get, let's say, a bus company, for instance, I am now negotiating with a bus company in Manchester and they're going to do the Wales tour for me. But I've decided I'm going to talk to them and I've talked to them about doing the English tour and the Scottish tour as well. So now I will have one bus company that I can depend upon, and I'll build up a working relationship with them. And the more business I can give them, the more discount they might give me. Do you know what I'm
Yep.
saying?
Scratch my back
So
and I'll scratch yours.
yeah, yeah. And then I know that I can rely on them because they have depots all over. So I will know, because in Ireland, I have one bus company and I use them all the time. And I know that I can depend on them, and they'll make sure that they have a bus for me when I need it. And if it was a case that anything broke down, I know that they will be on it as fast as lightning.
Yeah, consistency and reliability
Oh yes,
are
yes,
important things.
very important, especially with transportation. Because you do not need a bus to break down and you're sitting there and you don't have somebody to come and give you a working bus, or you don't have a mechanic to come out and look after it, you know. So you have to make sure that you're picking good companies to work with.
Absolutely. Alrighty. And then moving right along to one of these other questions that I have. You mentioned that you're expanding some different places and venues, or not venues, but locations that you're expanding out to. Uh, that's wonderful. But what's the overall thing that you want to improve going into 2026? Do you have a good way of capturing the feedback from all these people, or take suggestions for improvement? Do you do anything like that?
Yes, I put out a
A survey. Oh, okay.
survey, and then I also ask them to give me a review. And whenever we can, we'll do a recording of the review as
Nice.
well. Yeah, and I have this little green book, and they can write their personal notes on this book, which is nice for me. It's just, it's um I remember people when I read some of these comments that they say, but a survey is usually, now, you'll get some comments like, my husband is very tall and the distance between the seats wasn't big enough. There's nothing you can do about that,
Yeah. Yeah.
but things like that, you can't do anything about it. But other things, you can look at them and say, right, okay. But things happen on tours as well that's totally out of your control. Traffic jams. I remember one tour, was it last October? Not this October gone, but 2024. And we always have a surprise or a couple of surprises. That's where the secret comes in. We put in some surprises, some surprise locations. But this was a paranormal tour as well. And there's a castle north of Dublin called Ardgillan Castle, supposedly very haunted. And I had worked my butt off for 6 weeks beforehand to try and set up um, an investigation at night time. I was going to bring them to the castle where they could do an investigation for 2 hours. Didn't get it pinned down until the week before. So as luck would have it, it was a surprise anyhow. So if it hadn't worked out, it wouldn't have mattered because they wouldn't have known. But we were leaving the castle in Cork. We were staying in that castle, Blackwater Castle, and we were going back up to Dublin. And I had organised a group dinner in Fitzpatrick's Castle for 6 o'clock. We're driving into Dublin and we hit a traffic jam. And as you're driving in, you can see the road to the north, and you could see that the traffic was held up there. And my bus driver, Keith, said, there's a crash on the M1 north of the airport. And that's where we were supposed to go after dinner. Now, I'm sitting on the bus and I'm thinking, we're not even going to make it to the dinner. We're not going to make it to Fitzpatrick's to have the dinner. And he says, no, we will. And I'm looking at this traffic and nothing is moving. I ring the hotel and I says, we're in traffic. Can you put the dinner back by a half an hour? Yeah, we do that. We're in time for dinner. But the traffic is still held up. It was a massive crash. And we couldn't get to the castle to do the investigation. We would have got there, we would have been there for 30 minutes, and we would have had to come back again. because legally the bus driver can only drive. He can only be on the
Mm,
road for 8 hours. There's laws to how long a bus driver can drive for.
sure.
Like it's an 8 or 9 hour day. So we would have had to be back at the hotel within a certain amount of time. And that would have kept us only 30 minutes in the castle. So there was no point in leaving the castle to go up to this other castle, an hour up the road and an hour back. So things like that happen. There's nothing you can do about it.
Yeah,
You know,
absolutely. It's got to roll with the punches.
you do, you have to, it's out of your control, end of story. But, what can you do? And I wouldn't mind, but I had worked so hard at pinning it down. And it just, maybe there was a reason we shouldn't have been there in the first place. I don't know.
Maybe next time, right?
Yes, next time.
You've done
Exactly.
all the work. You have it all ready for the next time.
Yeah, absolutely. They would have loved it though if we could have been there.
Oh yeah. Um, so for following up with those customers, like you said, you got some of them on video reciting what their favorite parts are were. I would almost say that you could do your own little podcast, video podcast, and just pull out clips and segments.
Well, funny enough that you say that because during COVID, when I could not bring people to Ireland, I decided I'd bring Ireland to the people. So
Mm,
I did chatting up the Irish. So I got people and I interviewed them. For instance, there's a man by the name of Pat Noon. Pat owns this farm. It's a fairy farm, very, very unique farm. It has a cairn, which is an underground passage tomb. It's covered over, it's like a mound. And that's where the word cairn comes from. It's an Irish word. But the passage tomb itself is, if it had been excavated, it would look like one main chamber with 3 chambers off it. And he has that on his land. He also has standing stones. He has a fertility stone. And he has a fairy fort on his map. The Irish are very strong believers in the fairies and the
mm,
power of the fairies. And the fairies can be not so nice when they don't want to be. So you have to kind of be nice to them. And I'll always sing a song for them when I'm up in the fairy fort. But you have to get permission to go into the fairy fort because if you go in on your own, you could get lost. And Pat will always ask for permission and he'll bring you through his land and he tells you the history of it and he tells you everything you're seeing. And it really is, it's a unique experience. And people have had unique experiences on that land when we've brought them to that particular farm. Um, it's in a place called Kilconnell in Galway, Pat Noon, and people would be able to search it. Pat Noon, Green Hills B&B, Green Hills Farm. And if anyone was going over to Ireland, it would be a unique place to visit. And then we bring them to places like Leap Castle, which is regarded as the most haunted castle in Europe. And Sean Ryan owns that castle and he's a musician. I know him from the music, but he lives in the castle and it dates back to the 13th century. I mean, all of these places, they're rich in history. I mean, Ireland is a very old, ancient land. And we've got, like I said, the underground passage tombs. They're Neolithic.
mhm.
There's court tombs, you're walking on ancient land. And the history is very rich. When you walk on some of these places and you're told about the history of it and how far back it goes, it's really mind boggling to think that people walked on that land so long ago and you're walking on it today, that kind of a way. So,
Absolutely. Is being here in the United States is very different from when you go over to overseas and see just ancient things. It's
yeah,
kind of boggles your mind. We're not
it
used to
does.
it.
Yeah. And it's amazing because, for instance, in Sligo, where I'm from, there's underground passage tombs on this mountain, Brickleaf Mountains. And when you think about, we're supposed to have progressed because we have laptops and we have phones and we have all this thing. But these people, you're talking of 6,000 years ago. I'm thinking about one particular place, this place on the Brickleaf Mountains. There's 14 cairns. In other words, there's 14 underground passage tombs. Now you can go into them. There's one of them that I will go into. You'd have to kind of crawl into it, but then when you're in there, you can stand up. And there's the main chamber, and then there's, as I said, 3 chambers off it. And that's the same in all the underground passage tombs. Now, the intelligence of these people. In Sligo, on the 21st of June, the morning of 21st of June, the longest day of the there's a headstone, and then there's the top of the cairn, and then you go underneath. But there's this space like that. And when the sun rises over the mountain, it shines directly in through that slit, and it lights up the centre tombs.
Oh, wow.
Now, that's in Sligo. And right directly across the country is a place called Newgrange, very well known, underground passage tomb. And the same thing happens in winter over there. It's opposite the country. And they have the winter solstice, we have the summer solstice.
Wow.
Yeah. And then in Sligo, on those 14 cairns where they're placed, certain times of the year, they mirror image what's going on in the sky. And this is done 5,000-6,000 years ago. These were built. And there's stone circles as well. The equinoxes, the sun hits different equinoxes like Imbolug, Baltana. What I see? There's no English to these. It's certain times of the year. Like Baltana is May, Lunasa is August. The sun will shine directly in between the particular stones, and it tells them what time of the year it is. And again, this was done 5,000-6,000 years ago. And you think, how do these people create this? How did they know to create it? It's kind of like Stonehenge, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. Just
It's amazing.
no
And
mystery.
it is a mystery. It is a mystery, And that particular place, the one in Sligo, Carrowkeel it's called. It's up on the Brickleaf Mountains. And before I moved over here, I lived about 5 miles from it as the crow flies. And again, I mentioned the town of Boyle. Well, there was an old woman there, and she swore that you have been seen hovering over the Brickleaf Mountains and hovering over the cairns, because there's ley lines up there. And people thought she was kind of, Lula. But there was a German guy that came over and he stayed with her. And he started studying this. And he reckoned that he could predict when they were going to come. Now, I don't know whether he's still there, whether he went back to Germany or what happened to him. I know she died, but he did a lot of study. And I remember, now when I say in the country, there was a forest behind me. There was another house in front of me, but we didn't have street lights or anything. At night time, you had the stars and you had the moon, and that was the light. I mean, it was really in the country. It was beautiful, really. But I remember my son and his friend walking back from his friend's house one night, and they come in to me, and I knew by looking at them, I thought, what's wrong? I said, God, you look like you saw a ghost or something. And my son says, well, we don't know what we saw, ma'am. I says, what do you mean? He says, well, we saw a light in the sky, and it came directly down, and it just hovered, and it moved a little. It was going very fast, he says, and then it stopped. And then it broke off to 3 lights, and they went different places. But when I heard about this woman and the UFOs, I remembered my son telling me this. And I thought maybe there's something to it. Because you could say they were shocked. They didn't know what they had seen. And I was
Absolutely.
saying it might be a helicopter or it might be this. He says there was no noise out of it. We didn't hear any noise. There was no noise. We couldn't hear a helicopter sound or a plane sound or anything. He says, and it wasn't a balloon or anything like that. It was a fast moving, bright light, no noise. And then it stopped dead and it split to 3. And the 3 balls or whatever went in different directions. So, but it's places like that. And again, that particular place, you'd need a local to bring you. You wouldn't find it on your own.
Wow. Yeah. That's
Yeah.
Lots of
I wish I
stories.
had met that woman now. I wish I had known of her or had talked to her just to get her insight into what she knew about that place. But there's definitely a different energy up there, I have to say that. Yeah. And the views are stunning from once you get up there. Oh my gosh. I mean, your mouth would hit the ground looking at the views from up there. It's amazing.
Wow, yeah, that's amazing. I'm a fan of those monolithic, megalithic old structures, and they're just unique and very interesting to me too.
Oh, they are, yeah, absolutely. And there's an energy in them. I remember one woman I brought, she was from Brittany and she lives in Ireland. She has a healing centre actually in County Kerry, but she speaks Irish, English, Breton, and French. And again, I'd say she's very psychic. And I brought her up to Carrickeel and we went into the tomb. And she said, I hear they're speaking, but it's old, old, old Irish. I don't recognize it. I don't know what they're saying. But it was older than what we would speak today. Yeah. So
Very
that's
interesting
fun.
stuff. So,
Yeah.
so I can see how the ghost tours were working out for you, slash maybe even alien tours or megalithic tours.
Yeah, I'd like to do that, and I'd like to do I mean, Ireland is coming up fast as a foodie destination.
Oh yeah, wow.
Yeah, I mean, once upon a time, the food would be very bland, but now we have some great, um, what do you call them? These chefs or whatever you call them. We've some fantastic places to eat, and of course, we've all fresh food. If you buy meat in a shop in Ireland, you can trace it back to the farmer who's raised it. And a lot of our produce is fresh and it's organic. And if you say catch of the day in Ireland, they mean catch of the day. It gets caught and it's sold in the morning and it's eaten that day. It is catch of the day. It's fair. When I go home, I always overdose on fresh fish.
Seafood.
Oh, I love it. Yeah. I'd see, I'm in Kentucky and I'd see catch of the day and I'd think, nope, this is not catch of the day. Yeah.
That means a different thing there.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
All right, May. Well, thank you. This has been a lovely conversation. I hope our listeners get some valuable insights about what you do, what your company is doing, and maybe even reach out to you.
Yes. If anyone wants to reach out to me, just have a look at Secret Ireland Tours LLC.com. My email is on it, but I'll give it to you here if anyone wants it. It's May at Secret Ireland Tours LLC.com. If you have a group, let's say friends and family that want to go over to Ireland and have a great time, contact me and we'll organise a tour for you. And whatever you want to do, whatever you want to see, or if you have no idea what you want to see, I can give you some great tips and we can organise the whole thing for you if you want. And just come over and have a good time and make memories that'll last your lifetime. You're on the threshold of your dreams, as I just say. And you never plough a field by turning it over in your mind, Brian. In other words, don't be thinking too long about it.
There you go.
There you
Wonderful.
go.
Well, thank you, May. Those beautiful words.